We're live, pal.
We're live, pal. Hello. Hi. Howdy. This is the Big Trouble crew. We're doing a new show. We kind of trying this off of a sort of an idea I had, which is I kind of asked everybody, like, hey, you guys want to do like something that's like a book group for like video games, more or less, a book club. And everybody seemed pretty receptive to that idea, and we came up with a big list of games and decided we're all going to pick one.
We said, I guess I'll play video games. It's not really what I normally do, but
yeah, twist my arm. Why don't you? But some of these games you might have to twist some people's arms to get them to play.
Or it take forever.
This might have been one of them a little bit, but this is Accelerated Gamer. We like ruminated and tried to figure out a clever name for this and had a tough time. And then finally somebody was just like, oh, this is called Accelerated Gamer. Let's do it. It's like Accelerated Reader, that weird regional program we reference all the time in our recordings. But,
which I think only happened in your guys' neighborhood. And we had a summer reading list, but nothing like what you guys did.
I can't believe that wasn't national. I really thought it was a national education initiative or something, but whatever.
Yeah, it was regional apparently. But I'm Zach.
I'm Andy.
I'm Chaz.
And I'm Dubs.
It was so weird to do because I'm always last. I decided, or I guess I didn't decide this, but I ended up going first, I guess. And we all got like a short list of games we kind of made up, but the game that ended up at the top of my list being the first pick was Blood Omen Legacy of Kain for PlayStation and PC. And I picked this game because I feel like it's kind of not really spotlighted at all anymore, ever. Like almost nobody ever really seems to talk about it.
Well, it has a much more famous sequel.
It does, yeah. Soul Reaver came out and ended up being more popular, I guess. I'm not sure how exactly. I guess it was just the time. I'm not going to say it's a better game necessarily. Like I think it's probably a little easier to play, but it's got its own things that are like trappings of the time it was in when it came out too. You know,
it's adult Zelda Link to the Past.
Yeah, that's kind of how I tried to describe this game to people because I didn't really know what else to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy said something about Diablo a couple times.
I still think that a lot. Like not just gameplay wise, but aesthetically as well. But Diablo 1 specifically.
Yeah, this game very much feels like if Diablo and Link to the Past had a baby.
That's a good, yeah, I'll buy that.
And that baby was a vampire.
And that baby was the spawn of Satan.
But yeah, this is like a Blood Omen came out in like 1996. I think it was like mid to late 1996 when it came out on PS1. Originally, it was going to have a Sega Saturn port. That didn't work out. I'll get into that a little bit.
Wrong kind of triangles.
Yeah, I didn't have in a 2D game where triangles matter. But, yeah, like it's a top-down, like Zelda-ish kind of game where you're like going around killing enemies, getting power-ups, getting stronger. You can't go to certain areas until you can like go find some other ability to help you get through there. You know, it's like Metroid 2 in that way as well. And it's really edgy because it's like
extremely edgy.
It's a very edgy game. It came out in mid-90s and it's about a vampire and it's a Western developed game. So like, you know, it's super edge. Kind of reminds me of PC games though. You know, a lot of PC games are really edgy too, like edgier compared to what you'd play on console.
Yeah. I mean, there was a whole like the 90s counterculture thing, but then also just gaming in general always had to have like a weird dark slant in the Western stuff, and especially like you said, CRPGs and stuff. But I always felt like playing this game, I really felt like they dial the edge up to 11, like almost to its detriment at times. Like there's several times like he'll laugh at killing innocent people to replenish your health. Like it's a little off-putting.
Yeah, but you understand why, right?
Because he's evil. I don't know.
Kind of. It's something to do with what happens in the story. It's just something else we'll get into later, I think. But yeah, like I got a couple short notes about the development, and then we're just gonna roll right into talking about the game in general. You know, at first, Silicon Knights, which is like a Canadian studio that they're famous for doing like probably Eternal Darkness more than anything.
Oh yeah, holy shit! Really? That's what.
Yep, this was their first big game, and then it was Eternal Darkness because
That's
that
wild.
was going to come out on N64, but then Nintendo was like, "Hey, we're doing the Dolphin," and they're like, "You want us to put it on the Dolphin?" And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead and start making it for that." Okay.
It's
And
just
then
a good thing.
And Twin Snakes, and then they didn't make anything good ever again, basically.
They got shuttered eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, this was their first game though, and they started development on it in 1993 with no real platform in mind, and they were shopping around for a publisher. And at first, they started to make it as an RPG. I think like more of a hard RPG. And eventually, they settled with Crystal Dynamics as the publisher. And they're famous for publishing other games, but then they transitioned into being a developer, and they got bought by IDOS. This was apparently going to originally be a 3DO game. Weirdly enough, which probably made it
with double obscurity.
Yeah, that's at the time in '93 when the 3DO was coming out, there was a lot of like positive buzz for it inside the
Trip
industry.
Hawkins was out there hawking his big new box.
That's right. Yeah, like people, it's regarded as kind of a joke or like a weirdo footnote in gaming now, but like the 3DO was at first seems like this might be crazy. We could do some cool stuff with this thing. Trip Hawkins, all that. There's a lot of money tied up in it. But then the PlayStation got announced, and then they decided, no, let's go with that.
$299.99.
And then that gets into where they were going to do a Saturn port. They were intended to develop it for the Saturn the whole time too, I guess, until somebody in Crystal Dynamics said, you better not. Probably
some soothsayer.
Yeah. And then it turned out it was pretty far along when it got axed, so that's kind of unfortunate.
Has it ever been leaked or anything? Is it out there?
No, I mean, people have always speculated somebody's got a copy, but and somebody said, oh yeah, I've got it, and then somebody else came out of the woodwork and said, no, it wasn't that far along, it's not finished. So I guess not. Back then though, Crystal Dynamics was kind of keen on or I already talked about that, my bad. Anyway, Silicon Knights, when they were making this game, they wanted a protagonist to be like an anti-hero in this game. That was like one of their main things.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like sick of monomyths and like good guys and stuff. They wanted something, I guess, a little grittier or whatever.
Well, you know what this reminds me of that was also popular at the time? Spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spawn was already out right at that point. Did it come out in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like the concept of like being imbued with evil power in order to get vengeance is a very Spawn concept.
Yeah.
I mean, Spawn, by the time this game came out, I think even the movie was at least in production.
It wasn't out yet, but it might have been in production.
Yeah, but the comics had been out for a bit. It was pretty popular.
I couldn't remember when the comics started exactly. I just knew
there was also the HBO Spawn show, right?
Yeah, I think that was after the movie too, though. I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. When they were shopping this game around, though, as that being part of their pitch, there were some publishers that thought that character wasn't going to appeal to gamers very much, which I think is kind of weird. When you go back and you find out what people in the industry think about gamers, what they're not going to like, you kind of come across all kinds of strange takes like that. Western gamers don't like RPGs, that kind of thing.
By the way, Spawn #1 came out May 1992, so you're right.
It was just a little over a year later when they started this process. The primary inspiration for the tone of the game's story and stuff seemed to be elements taken from the Wheel of Time series of books.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there was also some concern, like while they were making this game from publishers and stuff, that it's too ambitious, like what they're trying to do and everything. And you could argue, given the result, maybe they were a little too ambitious, some of the things they were trying to do. But
I feel like the publishers had probably a say with the ending on what we have to choose.
maybe, yeah, I didn't really consider that actually. That maybe they said, "Can you like do thing where you choose the ending?" And then they came up with what we got. Basically,
Can we have a happy ending, please? That's how I think the publishers talked.
The happily ever after ending.
The happy ending is not canon, by the way.
I mean, it's not because
Couldn't be.
the sequel immediately proves it's not.
Yeah. But that pretty much wraps up the development stuff. Unless you guys got any comments or questions about that, really.
How much was the 3DO? Oh, sorry. How much was the 3DO supposed to cost compared to the
500?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like
PlayStation was the better cost.
Yeah, the MSRP back then was like $700 for real.
Like a big part of the point of the 3DO, and I don't want this to be a 3DO podcast, but like Trip Hawkins left EA and said, I'm going to go make a console for developers, because developers always wanted to make more powerful games, but hardware was holding them back. So the idea of the 3DO was, I'm going to make a powerful ass console and people can make the exact games they want to make, and everything's going to be super realistic and badass. And it didn't really work out that way.
$700 in the 90s is just too much money.
Too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, Silicon Knights started development on this, but did they complete development on it? Didn't it like change hands or some shit?
Not quite. And it like that gets into like kind of what happens with Crystal Dynamics later and like the fate of the IP, like where it ended up changing basically.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, it happened more after it, but then like intellectual property gets changed, right?
They swap ownerships. But like they started this in 93, shipped in 96. That's a really long time for a game back then to develop and ship. And I guess Crystal Dynamics was having trouble being fast about it. Like they were kind of slow, and or Silicon Knights was being slow, and Crystal Dynamics was getting antsy about that. They're like, you guys need to hurry up, because like game publishing, I don't know if a lot of people really fully understand it. It's like they're investing in the game to start with, and then they, help distribute it. So you're already putting money into the developers' hands to help them, like, okay, get this thing going, get it out. And they're lagging behind. So at some point, maybe in 95, they're getting really antsy about that. And they're like, you guys need to hurry up. What do you need? Do you need more money? We're just going to hire people and send them to Canada. That's what we're going to do.
I was wondering, like, how did they keep their heads above water in the 90s developing? But I guess they also, like, in the meantime, they ported a 3DO game to the Saturn called The Horde, and they made, or is this a port? No, they developed it, Dark Legions for DOS in 94. So I guess they had some, like, side stuff coming out.
They were working on some smaller games before this, yeah, and I think Dark Legions did pretty good for them. And
a strategic simulation. Oh,
it seems like a pretty cool game from what I've seen. I kind of want to play it actually.
It's probably abandonware.
Yeah, I think it is, unless it's probably on GOG or something.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, they did the Horde as well. But like, I think, this gets into some stuff that happens later with the court case and everything.
Oh my god, it's a court case?
Yeah, where Crystal Dynamics was making moves this entire time while they were being a publisher. They were transitioning the company to be a developer, and that gets into like some deals that they made with Activision and stuff where they got more money. And that's probably how they were able to continue financing the game. But now for the game itself. At this point, I guess we can just kind of free form, just talk about the game play, the graphics, the whole thing. Whatever you want to get, whoever wants to take the floor first.
I thought it was very interesting that the game starts and you have to be murdered.
Yeah, that's cool. There's some games that do that where you get like defeated or some shit like right.
Sure, I mean, like Suikoden 2 starts that way, and there's a few other games that do, but it's still interesting. They don't show it to you. They don't show him getting killed. They put you in control of him. You get thrown out of a bar because it's closing. It's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And as soon as he steps outside, a bunch of thugs attack him, and then a necromancer says, "I'll tell you what. I'll give you a fuckload of power and immortality, and you can get your revenge." And he's like, "Yeah, there's no downside to this deal. There's no way this could come back to bite me." So he goes back and he tries to get revenge on the people who murdered him.
Except when Kane's narrating, he's like, it wasn't that easy.
Yeah, I shouldn't have taken the deal. I can't remember what he says precisely, but
I also tried to because I played that part multiple times just to see if there is a beating portion, but no, they just keep on sending more people and you die.
Yeah, I was able to take down several guys before in a different playthrough, and they just keep coming. You have to die.
And I love that the UI is different for both vampire you and human you. I thought that was kind of a cool touch to it a little bit.
Yeah, this game's got all kinds of cool little neat touches to it. But you're playing as a guy named Kain, and he's like a nobleman, and he gets murdered, and he wakes up and he's a vampire now.
Why does he get murdered?
Because there were machinations set in place for him to be murdered that had to do with the fate of the world, I guess.
I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop on he was destined to save the world, or he had some kind of power, or he was the descendant of someone or something like that. But it's just always these thugs killed you, and then you kill the thugs, and he's like, but those thugs were hired by one of the bosses, and you go that, and then the story just keeps rolling. And I can't remember if they ever are they killed you because blank.
So they kind of touch on it really briefly, but they don't actually really explore it. It gets more explored later in Soul Reaver, actually.
Oh, okay.
So when you're at the end of the game and you kill the real boss, and then he realizes after he's done everything, he's like, there's one left. It's me. I'm the last one. So he's tasked with, after he kills his murderers, he gets to kill his murderers, and that part rules because he's the voice acting's awesome in this game, by the way.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Especially by Simon Templeman that plays Kain.
I found out Ariel, the ghostly figure that's at the pillars and shit, is the mom from Breaking Bad.
Yep.
Walter White's fucking wife. I was like, God damn it, really?
Tony J plays a bunch of characters. He plays the Necromancer, Mortanius, and a couple other characters in the game, and he's Megabyte from Reboot.
That rules.
Speaking of Reboot, these cutscenes looked like Reboot, just with vampire times and stuff.
They look a little better Reboot, I think.
Well, for the time, they looked fucking outstanding. For now, they look like hot garbage. That's the thing.
They did not age well.
Yeah,
CG.
when I in the opening scene, what's his name? The main bad guy. He's killing all the people in the church.
That's Vorador. And
Vorador. I was like, why is that Muppet killing those guys?
Why is he drinking their blood?
He's got a half bat face or something. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I called him a furry when I saw him.
Gets into weird vampire shit that gets explained later on in the series, why he looks the way he does, and no other vampires do. Because you notice Kain never ends up looking like that,
right?
So that's a thing that gets explored later too.
I like how they slurp blood from far distance, they have those silly straws and shit.
They telekinetically pull the blood out of their body to their mouth. That's how it works.
It's cool, but it seems more like it's a contrivance for gameplay's sake, which I am very cool with. I don't want to have to walking up on people to do that all the time.
That is probably easier to animate that instead of him grabbing a guy in a CG cutscene in 1995 or 6 to drink his blood.
True. I do like that gameplay element is one of the things I really, really enjoy about this game is you replenish your health from your enemies. If you get in a tight spot, as long as you don't freak out, if you stay focused, you can really dig yourself out of a hole as long as there's enemies around.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a cool gameplay element. And every once in a while, they'll just give you a blood orb, or there will just be some innocents chained to the wall or whatever. But I still really like that. And of course, sometimes there's ghosts or something. Sometimes you're screwed. But I like that you can dig yourself out of a hole health-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That actually, I was going to tie into the layering. like a lot of the dungeons you would go into throughout the game. They did a good job of layering and sequencing when you would fight something versus when you're doing puzzle trap based stuff and trying to
Oh,
like work
sure.
your way through. And
Yeah.
like you said, like you have a way to like manage your health and know, oh, I need to go back and actually fight something because I can't get enough from these, and I don't feel confident enough to go through this trap without losing X amount of health. So
There was a lot of, I remember, a couple rooms back, there were people chained to the wall, and I left them there.
yeah,
Gotta keep that health. But that's another part of the unbearable edginess of this game, because they're like, "Oh, help me, kind sir," and you're like, "Nah, bro, nah, I'm not gonna help you. It's either peace or you're dead." Which I guess is like kind of mercy in its own way, but
it's merciful. And then what's even funnier though is when you kill people chained up to the wall. If you come back there later, they're chained up to the wall as ghosts.
Yeah,
You can just drink their ghost blood.
I saw a bunch of ghosts. I don't remember seeing them chained up. I guess I didn't double back enough.
Yeah, you have to you can't see it too clearly. You have to stop and actually look at it.
Maybe that's what it is. I was just kind of.
it was very transparent.
Yeah, they're pretty transparent when they're.
I always see the regular ghosts though. That happened a lot. And the first time I kill a ghost and you get the magic back, I was like, oh, that's cool too. I like that.
Yeah, you drink ghost blood to replenish your magic.
Ectoplasm, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so.
sure. Spirit.
I also like that they later on they give you really powerful spells, but if you use them, you don't get that health back. That's the trade-off. Like you can separate a guy's soul from his body and then destroy it, but you're not going to get any health, brother.
That's right.
And
Sometimes you got to kill guys that way though.
I like some of the enemies, like the blood hurts you. I got I was like really low on blood. I killed one of I forgot what the enemy was, but I would slay it. Or make it daze, and I would drink the blood, and all of a sudden get poisoned it somehow and lose.
Yeah, it's if you kill undead enemies, like zombies and shit, or if it's like there's like those weird gelatinous enemies, they look like a blob. Yeah. They have poisonous blood too, yeah. So if you use like the blood orb shit to draw blood from everybody.
I think the item I used most in this game was the poison heal.
Yeah.
I used it quite a bit too. I don't know. I kind of use a little bit of everything, really.
I kept forgetting I had items until I was like poisoned or something. Every once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I got like ninja stars," or I guess, and then I'd use a ton of them in that dungeon, because I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I have these. I remember," and then I'd forget again for 2 dungeons.
Yeah, because if it so when the game starts out, it does have I think it has a difficulty curve to it. In the beginning, it's kind of tough.
Yes.
Yeah, but this game's very difficult early because they don't explain anything, right?
Yeah, they just go, hey, good luck, and then you kind of get killed a couple times, trying to figure out just the right timing for that big ass sword swing.
Like that. It's pretty much that sequence.
Yeah. At the beginning, I was so hesitant to get killed and set back. I would all the time be like, swipe, take a couple steps, wait for him to attack. Swipe, take a couple steps, wait for him to attack. I was like, man, this is getting tedious. And then the more tools they give you, the easier it gets, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was my gripe while playing this game is the animation. Because if you do 2 swipes, there's an animation that you can't move, and it could really fuck you. The combo is good when you're, fucking whacking the shit out of the dude. But I was doing what Andy did. I would whack, I would go back
and scoot,
and
whack and scoot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good when it cheese to that because I played on emulator. Because I tried.
How did everyone play this game? That's pertinent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You played it on emulator, so you played the PS1 version on PC.
I played all 3.
That's right. At some point, you played everything.
Yeah. So I tried
this porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. This emulation is just right.
So I tried the one that Zach gave me for that Christmas gift he gave me because I actually do have the physical copy of Legacy of Kain. So I tried it on there. The load times were horrendous.
Pretty slow.
Yeah, and then I tried the PlayStation 5 port. Still, the load times were horrendous. So I was like, I can't take this. So I went to GOG, and I tried the mods, and I needed to cheese the save time because on GOG you had to go into the save points and then do the save. So I just went to emulator and I cheesed the save so that I can get through certain parts because I was sucking. I was dying a lot in the GOG version.
Not to shame you or anything. This is just a fact. It took you the longest of any of us to beat the game.
Yes, because of the controls.
Yeah,
I got annoyed.
What did you use if you were playing an emulator? What did you use for a controller?
The controller that you gave me.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that retro.
And I use D-pad because analog is horrendous to fucking use because it's not designed for analog. So,
yep.
Because when I was doing the analog, I was like missing the enemy and dying a lot. So I was like, let me do D-pad, and D-pad worked more wonders. I still had trouble. But obviously, once you get more items, like once you get the fucking Soul Reaver sword, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like
this game's all about like knowing how to space and your hitbox windows and stuff. It's very much like if you understand that spacing, you can kind of crack the code. There are a couple avenues to break it though. That's it. I played it on PS5. I had the GOG version. I was going to play it, but there was like a couple extra steps I needed to take to get around a couple of hitches, and I was like, and I looked over, and I already had it on PlayStation 5. I was like, I'm just gonna play it here. It was fun.
I went through those extra steps. I got the GOG version, and I got the Kain GL. I think it's just called a GL wrapper. It's like the game was like decent, and then GOG put it up, and then the fans basically fixed it. They did everything that needed done. The saves got a little better, the resolution got a little better, a bunch of other stuff got a little better. It still was like wonky in parts, but it went pretty well. And I don't regret it at all. Like I wanted to play it on PlayStation, but I didn't have my PlayStation port. I might not even have my PlayStation 5 at that point. No, I did. I did when we started this, but still I got it on GOG anyway, and I got that. It's if anyone's listening to this and you can't figure it out, there used to be a website that offered Kain GL, and it's more or less defunct now. You can just get it on archive.org. Go in there, and it's pretty easy to install. You just drop it into the GOG folder, and it kind of does everything for you. But it's worth it. If you're playing it on PC, it's kind of essential in my book.
I played it the OG way on the PlayStation.
Well, that would be nice if you actually had a copy. But what are you gonna do?
Are the
load times like that?
Yeah, they're slow. They've always been slow. Even if you like play it on PS2, because if you remember, if you play a PS1 game on PS2, sometimes the load times improve a little bit depending on what game. That's not one of them.
Yeah, Andy, if you notice on GOG, when you go into buildings, there wasn't much of a load time.
Yeah.
In the PlayStation 1 and also the PlayStation Network port, every building you go into, you get that red loading sign for about a cup. About 5
that
seconds.
One dungeon that's basically a destroyed town where you go in and out of buildings like 5 times. That would have killed me.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of taking a second to take a sip of a drink while waiting. And
I don't regret my choice at all. I'm very happy with the GOG version.
It was definitely a little cumbersome, but I also got to enjoy it while I was sick and just sitting in my reclined couch, which I couldn't have done.
I did miss that a bit. I had to sit at my desk to play the game, which is fine. I've played a lot of PC games in my day, but
you're like ill. You could like gather yourself between entering rooms a little bit.
So I've got to ask something since we're kind of direction of what we played. So I felt like this game, there was the steep learning curve at the beginning. There was, you unlock a few things and you get good. And then there was a certain point where you just become unbelievably overpowered and the game just becomes a joke. So
I think, go ahead and say what you're going to say and I'll say what I have to say.
So I was curious, did everyone unlock the lightning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
you don't have to, but you got to.
Yeah, not the like just bolt you throw out, like the actual like
whole
storm.
Screen clearing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The literal God kill. I just wipe everything. Okay. So I felt like that became, that kind of just made the game trivial in some ways, especially if you had enough of the magic that you needed.
Part of that is it goes hand in hand with that 90s edge lord thing. It's a power fantasy. Like you become a very powerful vampire lord. Like at some point, the smaller enemies in the game are, like you said, trivial. Like it's like, well, this is whatever. You're dead. I'll separate your soul. Lightning storm. I'm gonna soul reave you. not a big deal. But I think that's part of, like, if you put the work in, if you like, you can miss a lot of stuff in this game.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you keep missing it, you'll still beat the game, but it'll be like more of a challenge.
Hard. Yeah.
It's weird because we were just discussing this at the side, but there's a lot of other games that do that. Majora's Mask comes to mind. You can beat the game just fine, but if you want that power fantasy, you can 100% it and you get the fierce deity stuff. It reminded me of that. I was thinking about it playing the game. It's like, well, I'm just God now. I can just do what I want.
That's actually what I thought of playing it. So, that said, as far as just weapons, not spells or items or anything else, weapons. What I'm sure that the answer may be different, depending on use versus just preference. What was everyone's favorite weapon?
The next to last sword. What was it? The fire sword? Flame sword. Flame sword's mine. Hand down.
Flame sword.
The Soul Reaver rules, but I need that magic power, man. I gotta keep that in my back pocket. I'd use it. I'd whip it out once in a while for fun, but mostly flame sword. The axe is dumb, or not the mace is dumb. The axes can suck my dick. All the swords are pretty okay.
Why is the mace dumb?
It took me half the game to figure out that it like stuns guys, and it's my fault.
That's what Kain tells you when you examine the item.
I was like, "Come on, let's go! I'm ready to go."
Fair enough. Tells you the information.
I don't have time
I
to
feel
learn.
like I tried it, and like I kept doing a thing where he does like an animation, and he'd be like stun, and then he comes back and hits them again and unstuns them. I was like, I'm just using my goddamn sword.
You got to hit him twice to stun him.
I don't know. I kept getting like the rhythm off or something. I don't know.
Like Chaz was saying, that's why I said before you guys started this game, I'm like, listen, the combat's a little weird. You have to learn the rhythm of the combat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, get just a little bit out of the reach, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you're using the mace, get a little bit out of the reach, 1, 2. And then you do whatever you want to that now.
I get it. It's just I learned the rhythm of the sword, and that was my life. I studied the blade, so
yeah, that's fair. I mean, okay, I would admit, like, as far as what was probably the most convenient thing or the thing I used overall the most, it was probably the flamberge. Isn't that the sword?
Flame sword.
Yeah,
flame sword.
So that said, it wasn't until near the end of the game. I think it was just out of like an inconvenience because I kept having to switch to them in order to break through certain things and get some secrets and other stuff. Yeah. But I got pretty good with the axes. The axes are kind of overpowered.
Mm-hmm. They're cool, but you can't use spells when you're using them. And I love my spells.
You didn't need to because you just turn into a whirlwind of pain. Like,
yeah, I gotta be able to reach out and just fuck a guy to death. I can't be bothered to cross the room. Okay,
he wants to be Palpatine. He wants to go die.
That's right. That's right. He gets that's my power fantasy. I want to be able to point at a guy and then suddenly he and the 3 generations he would have had all die.
Maybe I got to that point and got bored of just being able to do that.
Possible,
so I like to like do the cyclone thing, and then if I got really annoyed, then I would go through the 30-second load times to go to the menu to then change out and then go back and say, you know what, Bip, you're dead.
That's like, yeah, it's like variety. Like, you can get to a point where it's like you play what you prefer, like what your play style is. Because the game doesn't box you in too much to where you have to do this way or you're fucked. It does that sometimes. Most good game design does that.
It occurred to me that I was playing the game like Elder Scrolls at some point because it was like flame sword, lightning. Just most of the game, just those 2 things. Then every once in a while, if the enemies got bad, it became the soul destructor or whatever. But
do we have to pick one, or can it be like, can I be the most cheesiest person to be like, I like them all equally good besides the iron sword? Because I like the mace because I could stun people with armor. I like the axes because what Chaz's reason, I was just fucking spinning like fucking Tasmanian devil throughout the fucking stage.
I love that made it out of the conceptual phase. Someone was like, he just spins around with them, and everyone else was like, yeah, do that.
Flame sword I like because fucking fire is awesome. And Soul Reaver is the most powerful weapon, I think. I did find out the hard way through flame sword when I was low with health. If you hit the enemy, you can't drink the blood because he goes to ash.
Incinerated, yep.
Yeah,
that's another one of those trade-offs. You've got the power, but you'd better like not need health.
That's also the most efficient way to kill undead is to burn them
Right.
with the flame sword.
Yeah. So you would just kill them pretty easily. I honestly, I didn't use a Soul Reaver much at all.
Yeah, like I used it a few times as like, oh, this is neat, and then switched right on.
I did it on the final boss. I hit the flame sword multiple times. And
Oh, yeah, I
then
used it on a lot of bosses, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Soul Reaver, you can one-shot a boss with it, which is like fucking awesome.
Oh, I never did that, I don't think.
There's a certain one that they're weak enough that you can do that.
Nice.
Then like
I think you can two-shot, like you fight the druid and the other guy, you can two-shot the one on the island with it, I think.
Yeah, because they're just a wimpy spellcaster.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's who I was thinking of actually, is that, so you two-shot him.
Okay, because I did two-shot her.
The Soul Reaver is my favorite. That's for reasons beyond
It's the story stuff.
It's story stuff, and it's cool. And like, listen, I love making people explode. That's like my favorite thing. I mean, you make people explode with lightning and shit. There's something about swinging a sword at a guy and they explode into
pretty sweet.
pieces and shit.
Zach's the guy that shows up at the arcade playing Mortal Kombat and like knows all the brutality codes. And he's like, "No, I need to see 8 rib cages. I need you to explode and punch you." Yeah.
Like brutalities are kind of fun, but like they get old because it's all the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's in Blood Omen. Swinging that sword around and it makes that crazy noise because it's like sucking soul out of it's consuming their soul and it's blowing their body apart at the same time. I love it.
I know it's not the same game, but like Metal Gear Revengeance or whatever the fuck the title was, like when you're riding and you're using the sword and shit, like I get fucking like hard like doing that. Like, yeah.
But to me, every weapon's good and it has its use actually.
And I love that the mace you could like fucking destroy rocks to get to certain areas because I found that by accident. I was like fucking rock and I hit it and I was like,
you have to do it to get out of that dungeon. I thought.
Yeah, it's kind of like you got to do something. And then you kind of.
I thought that was just like that one thing, but I didn't know you could do it throughout the whole fucking map.
Keep doing it. You didn't know how Metroid-y it was gonna get.
Yeah.
That was the moment to show you that basically.
You can go back now. Speaking of well, we talked about all the spells. Well, not all of them. We talked about most of the spells. We talked about most of the weapons. What about the transformations?
Also,
speaking of trivializing the game, the fog?
Mistform?
Yeah, the mistform. Every once in a while, you're just like, I don't want to do this room. Mistform, go to the exit.
That's what a real vampire would do. Is like, I don't want to deal with this right now.
I don't want to be bothered by this.
Are these scythes? Fuck scythes. Mist.
Did everyone immediately figure out once you had mist, you just like, nah, fuck this, I'm going across all the open water?
Yep.
That's me.
Yeah.
Most
immediately,
of the time.
it was like, oh, there's islands and shit.
I kept looking for secrets where there were no secrets, though. Like I would get like way out there, and like I've made a massive mistake.
Oh, yeah, it was like all blue and like around you, like no land whatsoever.
I was like, there's got to be a secret out here. There's got to be something. There's got to be something.
And then your magic bar is just like this, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to die this way.
Did anybody find the lost city?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Chaz did it. Andy, did you do it?
I guess not.
Yeah.
That was the secret area I was telling you about, that you have to use mist to be able to get to it.
I got to do a bunch of stuff with mist. There's like a ship at some point. There's lots of stuff all around it.
Oh, you found the ship, huh? That's cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an extra secret. Yeah, they had like a pirate ship you could fucking find.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lost Island like threw me off at first because it's got a decent size to it, but then there's really not much going on other than there's just a bunch of items and treasures and stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what the Lost City was like too. It's like you go there, and the whole thing was you can only go there when it's a full moon. The door unlocks because
that's probably why there was a ton of moon gates that I just like wrote off.
Some of them are,
and I'll cop to something right away. I used to walk through a lot in this game.
I told you guys do it because it's one of those older games where it's like, it doesn't.
I don't have all summer to like figure out this game.
It's the Dark Souls before Dark Souls.
Yeah, if it was 1996, I would have all kinds of time to figure it out. And yes, I thought about Dark Souls a lot while playing this game, not just because of like difficulty or enemies or the aesthetic, but also the fact that everything loops back in on itself. Like every once in a while, you'll just like come out of a weird exit. And you're like, oh, I'm like near the starting city. That's weird. Mm-hmm. That's very Dark Souls too.
Oh yeah, very much the first one at least. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is the only one I've played. That's my whole point of reference.
Oh yeah, sure.
The
So
clunkiness too.
actually,
yeah, for
segue
sure.
this.
Like this.
So yeah, I for sure used to walk through because the other thing too is I wanted to try to do as many secrets as I could. So do you guys remember what title you got at the end?
Oh hell, it was something like Blood Hunter or whatever.
Blood Boy, Bloodman.
Oh damn, Dub's
Blood
left.
Prince.
Dub says, "Hang on, I'm gonna find out."
You gotta look it up. I got
looking it
the
up.
rankings here. So there was Whelp, Gimp, Princess,
Gimp.
Bride. I really love that Gimp and Princess are the lower ones.
Yeah.
I didn't get those. That one I would have remembered that. I thought I took a
Bride.
screenshot, but it's not in my screenshot.
You
folder.
beat
Yeah.
this game, Princess.
Bride, Prince, Blood Hunter, Count, Baron, Overlord, Saint, and then Devourer of Worlds was the one at the very end.
I definitely didn't get that.
Yeah, I did not get that one.
I think
I can't find it.
I think
Screenshot.
I got Count as my highest at one point when I tried to like really do everything I could in this game.
Well, and it's interesting too because the stats that decide what you get are based on like a crazy mix of things. It's based on
How
the
many
number of-
secrets do you get? I know that's one.
Yeah, secrets out of 100. Number of kills, number of meals that you take. So like when you just
Nom.
feed on someone, mutilations. So when you like do
Yes.
extra things to mutilate bodies. The time you spent playing. Like there's just a ton in the that affect what ranking you end up with. I thought that was kind of neat. I ended up with Baron, which was 8, and I think that was mainly out of the fact that I spent so much time just roaming around doing secrets, and then like just naturally by doing that over and over, you end up getting a lot of kills and stuff. But I didn't know I was chasing anything like that until the very end.
I tried to take a picture of it and I missed. I got only 38 secrets. That's weird. 617 mutilations, but I didn't. I think it was scrolling and I missed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember I'd have to go back and look and see because I think I took a picture too. But
Just so you know, if you bring up the pause menu, there's a section where you can go to where you can check that at any time.
Oh,
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
I literally learned it as I was reading here in the options
Just a
menu.
second.
It's a status screen and it'll tell you all of these things. Never once knew that it was a thing that you could look up. Just was playing it. And just at the end, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." It gave me a report card basically.
There's an
Yeah.
edgy high score.
It reminded me of Metal Gear Solid, is what it made me think about. Because at the end, they always give you, antelope, snake, big boss, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh
Or
yeah,
Resident
I can't remember.
Evil.
Resident Evil is what I thought of. It's like get a score. It's like good job, Capcom.
Games
They
used to all judge us in the 90s.
So
Those games scored you for how fast you were, though.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I was curious of, I'm just curious, did anyone look up the cheat codes and or use the cheat
Yes.
codes?
I did use cheat codes. I will cop right now.
What did you do? Were you cheating to beat the game?
No, there were a couple times I refilled my magic.
Yeah.
Same. I
There-
use cheat codes as well.
There are cheat codes to refill your health and your magic.
Yes, there is.
Mhm.
I resisted the health one. I was like, oh, it's right there. I could just do it, but no, I refilled my magic on a few tough parts.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because
Weird.
because I choose to save, I only used the magic one. Because if I did the health one, I'm
You
a
didn't,
pussy.
you didn't need to. You have the save cheese. You're basically time traveling, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
at that point, like, who cares? But
Yeah.
I still, I still did everything. I was still there. I still experienced it. But there were a couple
Yeah.
times I was in dire straits, and I said, I don't want to do all this again. So I went ahead.
I have a really dumb question, because you guys are more like retro gamers and played more than me. Was fast travel a thing during this time?
Not for a lot of games, no.
Maybe in like RPGs, but
yeah, there's not a lot of examples of it I can think of off the top of my head, though. This is like one of them that has it, that built the game around it, basically.
Yeah. This
Uh,
game's ahead of its time in some ways for things like that because very few.
you'd be the bats.
I mean, there are very
Definitely.
few examples of games I can think of that have fast travel. And I would say this game, in a lot of ways, inspired fast travel, especially with the way they did it. They had a neat way of doing it and tying it into like what you are.
I mean, basically, it's the same system we have now, except it was just a bat pillar instead of a tower you have to climb. Ubisoft.
Oh, I forgot. Legend of Zelda technically has a fast travel, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The first one does. You can play
Yeah.
that flute anywhere, and then it summons a tornado and takes you to a different part of the map.
Yeah, that's just like bats.
Yeah,
That seems random though. It's like based off of where you're at. It's like on the map or something. There's like some kind of weird algorithm to it or something.
I also want to point out about like the levels.
Okay.
I love how the levels look.
I want to
Oh,
say
sorry.
one more thing about forms real quick, and then
Oh,
we'll do levels. The wolf form, fucking hideous. I hate it.
What?
It's
wrong with
fun.
it?
It's fun and cool, and I like the sound effects for it, but it looks dumb. I hate it.
It looks like a big werewolf.
Sorta.
Sorta. What did you want it to look like?
I don't know. Cooler.
The only reason why I like the wolf form is I jumped over the bar to kill the bartender because I got fucking
Yeah, that's
annoyed.
funny. Yeah, when I realized you could like start jumping over bars and like start taking the stuff from behind the counters, I was like, "Ooh, I like this. This is fun."
Did you guys use the disguise very much anymore?
Some, like honestly, when you got mist form, it's like, who cares?
Well, that's funny because sometimes, it uses less magic. You
That's
can get to
true,
a point
that's
where you
true.
can use less magic.
There was like one or two towns I used it all the time, and nowhere else in the game.
I used it in the time travel stuff, like the pre-Nosgoth and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of secrets that you can only get by using the disguise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were a couple that they're like really weird. Like you have to, the way to get to them is you can't get past a certain thing in one of the towns unless you're disguised. Like if you go in and you aren't disguised, you get attacked. You can't miss past or get to or whatever. So you have to be disguised in order to get to it, and then you can get to the area.
Also, people say funny shit when you're disguised.
Yeah, I
also
was
true.
playing around with that a bit.
Oh, talk. There's not they say. I don't know what to say. It's just like dumb NPC shit, but it's funny. Like, I'm eating horse turds over here. Leave me alone. Shit like that.
All right, Dubs, what were you gonna say with the levels though?
I love the level design, like the looks of it. Every fucking part of the dungeons that you went into, the cathedrals that you go into, everything looked badass. Essentially, like Andy, you said it looked like Diablo. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I was like, this is very Diablo-esque, and I love it. There's one part where you go face the guy with the orbs that you have to, the boss battle with the orbs and shit, and you have to go through each one to hit him.
Nupraptor. The first boss.
I had a hard time trying to fucking find where he is until like I went into a save room. Because remember, when you go into a save room, like there's only one exit. I didn't know there was a fucking other area.
There's a few that have an extra exit. Yeah, I got tricked a couple times too.
Yeah, so like I thought that was neat. The only like downside I will say is because the maps are too dark, there were some entrances that I did not see. And it frustrated
I'm glad you said it first. I was about to say this game is too dark, and I don't mean that in the edgy way. Like I had to have
that one too,
my brightness way too high sometimes in order just to see very basic stuff, and it seemed kind of dumb. But I mean, that's the whole reason they give you the light. They give you the thing where you can like illuminate yourself. So I actually utilize that a ton.
I almost never used it. I think maybe my brightness settings were.
I think it's too high,
unfair or something. Like,
maybe because
I had a fairly simple time.
I don't know, Zach. Can you speak to that? You played the original.
The game is kind of dark in certain places. You might have to adjust your TV a little bit for it because there's no in-game settings for that.
Andy has his gamma all the way to 90.
Maybe.
I don't think I've been to his house. His TV doesn't look like that.
I was playing on my PC though.
Your PC monitor doesn't look like that either.
Honestly, maybe there were a couple times because I did recently have that thought where as a kid, I hated this. I thought it looked stupid. But the more games I play, the more I think every game needs that feature where in Final Fantasy VII, if you hit the select button, it puts triangles over all the exits on that screen.
Yeah, where you can see.
And like the older I get, the more I'm like, why doesn't every fucking game do that? Every game, all games. We should normalize that in every game ever. I want it in Madden, for Christ's sake. It should be in every game.
That is the video game equivalent of I watch my television shows with subtitles regardless of language
my
because
Yeah, no, it's like a
Now everything's a hidden object game where you just go click on this, click on this.
I can relate to that though. Yeah, I would love to have that. And yes,
And-
I used it in Final Fantasy VII. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
ashamed.
I didn't use it a lot, but every once in a while you'd be somewhere like, like in the slums or something. You're like, I don't know which of these is a goddamn door.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I do like like the menu screen, like, or anything that like tells you about stuff and items. Everything is done by voice acting dialogue.
Yeah.
There's no text to it. I'm just like, that's interesting. And that was like a choice. It was like, apparently, I forgot the guy who was like in charge of this game, but he was just like, your eyes hurt when you're reading stuff, so he just wants things told to you, essentially.
Dennis Dyack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there was some talk about like his direction for like the dialogue and stuff, and there was like worries of this dialogue's too complicated. They're saying too many big words, or like nobody's going to understand what they're saying. Again, it's this talk of like gamers are dumb. They just want to play as heroes all the time, that kind of shit. But like then he got Simon Templeman in there and he delivered his lines and he was like, oh, it's because there was even some worry about the actors not being able to like fucking be able to bring the performance forward or anything correctly. Like they were going to have problems or something.
Yeah, well, he certainly didn't. He did a great job as a voice actor. Okay, so we're talking about the menu, and I did find it neat upon like the exploration and when I'd get something new to hear the backstory and other stuff. I found that menu to be quite cumbersome to have to navigate through, especially with whenever you're trying to change equipment or you're needed.
Slow.
It got really annoying, especially because just pressing start was a load screen.
Yes.
To me, this is like the worst thing about the game is just navigating the menus and like the load times. Like you can kind of like, when you're going through rooms and shit, you can kind of get used to that. But you have to navigate a menu and you got to wait. It's like, oh man.
Honestly, I think that it actually was so bad. It was to the point that I kind of just stuck to a certain strategy and minimalized what I would use, so I didn't have to keep going back through the menu.
There was more than once I'd be like, oh, such and such spell would be perfect for this situation. But I don't have it on my quick thing. I'll do without.
No, that's exactly. I was like, I do not want to go back, so
I didn't even have the load times that you guys did. I was still like, oh, this menu's like I kept like assigning it wrong, and it was the kind of thing like I got better at it, but I never mastered it.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah,
it was clunky, and the timing just took forever. So I think it's actually why I didn't really use or mess with the axes until much later in the game, and it was just because like I didn't even care about the magic thing. Like at that point, I was like just dicking around with it and seeing how much damage it did, but I just never tried. I just literally switched in and out with the axes because most of the time I was using the thing to light up where I was at, and because of that alone, I couldn't use the axes. So I needed to be able to spell so I could see. So I just didn't use the axes, and that kind of led to this problem where I just said, okay, I'm sticking to this default weapon set only. These are the spells I'm using. I'm just not going to touch. I have 99 of that item or however many or whatever I can hold.
A light build.
Yeah, never fucking used it because it's like I didn't bother with the menu, which is kind of a shame, right? So that to me, it was definitely the biggest con, as far as looking at positives, negatives. It was a big negative. Now again, it's fine. Like it didn't keep me from playing the game. But it did limit how I played it a little bit.
I do have one gripe that like fucking annoyed the shit out of me is when you go into that one puzzle room with all the teleportations. Keep in mind, I fucking suck at puzzles. Coming from a Resident Evil guy who does puzzles, these puzzles were fucking like pissing me off at certain times. But that's not my gripe. The gripe is him going up fucking stairs so fucking slow. Like literally there's a flight of stairs like almost like every floor that you go on, and then you have these arrows that are fucking shooting at you, and then there's enemies at top of the stairs. But here's like Kain just being like, gonna go stroll up the stairs, and then like even the animation of him going fast doesn't look fast. At least when you're Link in Zelda games, they have like the animation to like make him look like he's running.
It's kind of trotting.
Yeah, and this one he's like kind of trotting, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
He's wearing all that armor. He's weighed down by all that equipment. He's slow. It's a ponderous game.
Yeah, you can't brood quickly.
Yeah, brooding takes time. You gotta let it like really get marinated in it.
The freaks come out at night.
That's right.
You have to settle in the brood.
I guess we can do like positives and negatives real quick. Like, just kind of like put a underline on this. Anybody got? Let's do negatives first. All the negatives.
I guess
my big one. Clunky menu.
Animation. Mm-hmm.
What about it? Just kind of choppy to you or something?
It's very choppy, and like I don't know if it's a user me, but like the combat was kind of hard at certain times, where I was like,
it's gotta be a little challenge.
Yeah, but like sometimes it just felt like I was hitting air most of the time.
I think you're talking about hitboxes more.
Yeah, hitboxes, and like even the animation part, like when your guy just like pauses for a while because of the combos, it hurt, like punishes you really badly. But I fixed that with what I was doing, the hit and then run away. And then obviously when you get more stronger shit and more spells and stuff like that, doesn't matter. So I guess let me resend the animation. I guess that's part of the game for you to like build up your character, and essentially, but. If I was just doing a melee run and no spells, it would kind of hurt badly.
What about you, Andy? Got any negatives?
The wolf looks stupid, and
Wolf.
there's still I don't want to sound like a wimp or anything, but there's like an excessiveness of edge. It's that whole like reveling and shouting "Ve Victus" when you're like drinking blood from some woman chained to a wall or something.
That shit rules. What are you talking about?
I guess. Like if I was in middle school, I'd be like, oh, it's fucking bad butt, dude. Oh, this rules. But
not everything has to be sugary diabetes bullshit all the time.
Not everything's gonna be like Mario Sunshine or whatever. But like I felt like a couple times it was like an uncomfortable amount of edge. It was like there's Shadow the Hedgehog and then there's this.
I do know that you brought up Mario Sunshine as the comparison there for a second, and I'm thinking
it's pretty sunshiny.
It's like there's that piranha plant that just has a diaper. That's all I can think of. It's like the opposite of this game. Just you fight a giant piranha baby with a diaper.
Also,
with a water gun.
A few of the traps. This kind of just mirrors what Dubs was talking about. I had some issues with hitboxes on enemies, but usually I can figure it out. Some of the hitboxes on the traps are fucking bullshit.
They are bullshit.
By that.
Yeah, I agree. I was getting like Ninja Turtles on the NES vibes and some of the things that were frustrating. Totally agree.
I was a foot away from that scythe. Fuck this game like a couple times.
Yeah, the scythe hitboxes are really egregious. There's this one dungeon where you're going through like an ice cave, and there's like a bunch of these spike pits, and I don't think you have mist yet, or if you do, you can't use it all the time because you don't have enough magic, because it burns magic so fast. You can kind of fuck up when you're trying to cross this ice, because in a video game, guess what happens when you walk on ice? You start slipping,
you slide faster,
and you lose control. So you can like fuck up when you're navigating these like spike mazes and start pinballing all over the place.
That's the one that immediately I thought of, and that's what made me think of Ninja Turtle underwater NES level, where it's like basically impossible to get through like a space where you just don't just like fuck up and die. But
something hits you and knocks you into that, like you're shit, fuck, oh the gabba, and then you're dead.
Yeah, you just literally do nothing. It's just one mistake, and it's like, oh, I just watch him die. Thanks. Yeah, happened to me a few times.
At least it comes back if you have hearts to eat.
That's true. Yeah, I
Blackheart.
The Heart of Darkness. The Heart of Darkness. Yeah, I had that activate quite a few times.
Yes, Mini.
I got to a point where I just drank them to have health because I'm awesome. I don't know.
Oh,
If
see,
If you
again, my
use them
menu system.
voluntarily, you get more health than if they kick in when you die, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there were a few times I was like, well, I'm pretty close. I'm just gonna crack open a cold heart with the boys here.
Yeah. Well, I think I said that earlier in the game. Like at first, you kind of need to rely on these to like not totally fucking game over out.
1,000%.
But
Oh, for sure.
if you're able to stay conservative with it and you get further into the game, you can end up with a stockpile and you can just start using those as health potions. Like, oh shit, my health's going down. Ugh.
It was another benefit of doubling back because when you would find secrets, usually the way you'd find secrets, you'd find a shit ton of items, and almost every time you'd find like 10 Heart of Darkness along with whatever other bullshit you found.
Yeah, the game was pretty generous with them.
It gets to a point where it's pretty generous. And then if you go on these exploratory missions to find these secret places, like the Lost City gives you a fuck ton of items.
Yes. I mean, it's literally just like a whole area of cards. Like they're just everywhere, right? It's the same place I'm thinking of, right?
You find a room that's full of Heart of Darkness, and you just go, whoa, 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 whoa. You just go all the way across it, picking up all those things.
Yep.
I got transported to like a Stonehenge a couple times that had a fuckload of items.
Yeah, the Stonehenges, those are cool.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like little challenge areas, and yet usually you get rewarded with items, or you get like a spell sphere thing to upgrade your magic capacity, stuff like that. I was gonna say what my negative was. I think, yeah, like Chaz, it's mostly the cumbersomeness of the load times with the menus and shit. I always thought that was the biggest weakness of this game, was like how slow it is in terms of all that.
Yeah,
And
it really drags.
Poorly
combat.
optimized, or is it just too ambitious?
It was maybe a little of both, is what I think.
I mean, they're a pretty inexperienced studio at this point.
Do you think if it was on the 3DO, it would have no load times?
No, because I think the PlayStation is
still disc-based.
Yeah, I think it, like in terms of power, like raw power of the console, I think the PlayStation was actually stronger hardware-wise. It just ended up being by just happens. Well, Sony's a giant mega corporation that had more money anyway, but they still built a machine where they could like not sell it for that much.
I think the 3DO had a superior video processing chip, but everything else was superior on the PlayStation. But don't quote me on that.
I think so too, and I don't know, the Saturn, if they could have figured out how to do it, it might not have had that bad of load times either.
Why didn't they port this bitch to the Virtual Boy? That's what I want to know. It's already red.
Jesus Christ.
Get all that blood on there. Come on.
When you die, like the screen should just fill up with red. Like
it's just all full moon.
That's pretty cool.
All the time.
I guess the other negative, this is like really like, this gets into some anal retentive shit for me, is like the sound quality of the game is sampled really low, and it's always kind of bugged me a little bit. Like you can tell like the sampling for like the VO is like kind of shitty.
Didn't bother me too much.
Gets some audiophile shit.
Yeah, I think it didn't bother me too much, mainly because I wore headphones.
Yeah, I mean, well, I can hear it. Doesn't matter what I hear it on, I'm going to hear it. Like that's what I'm saying.
I'm sure
you own it, bro.
There's a lot of dialogue in this game. They probably had to like jam pack it on that PlayStation disc.
That's what I was thinking, is like it came down to maybe inexperience, and like we know now that the recording, the situation for like recording a lot of this dialogue in these old games wasn't exactly ideal. Like they might not have had the best equipment. They might have been in a shitty room, with
like
bad acoustics.
Karaoke mic in a closet.
I mean, I do remember there was one time in particular, because it did. The one thing I'd agree with you on too is it was definitely inconsistent, because I can remember specifically one time. Again, I played the bulk of the game that I played through. I was actually sick. It's like a 2 or 3 day span. Sick, flu. So I was sitting here, not feeling great, but I'm like, all right, I'll slog through some of the game, and I can't remember what I was doing. I want to say I was in a dungeon, or I just finished a dungeon, and it's night. Everything's really quiet around me. I've got my headphones on, and I'm getting kind of sleepy, so I'm paying attention, but I'm a little tired. And out of nowhere, Kain just screams dialogue into my ear, and I nearly pissed myself. Like, I don't want to scream it now because I don't want to wake my daughter up, but just like literally just starts screaming dialogue about how he like slain some enemy and laughed as blood, just squelched out of his remains, and just lets out a big hearty laugh, and it's actually scared me more than anything else in the game.
It was too edgy.
It was just too loud. Like, it just
Just-
came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Fuck! I guess I'm awake now. I'm gonna keep playing."
I've noticed that too. There's some things where like the volume, the mix is like real high, and then it's like sometimes it's low, and then sometimes I've heard things that the quality is actually worse than what the standard is.
Well, I think that's
It's
what
kind of all
got
over
me.
the place.
At least for how I played it on the port I was on, it was so low that I had it so loud. I basically had full volume up on my headphones, and the only thing is I had my background music down a little because which we'll get to the music in a little bit, but the background music would play just undertones and stuff, and then just sometimes you'd get extra noises or combat noises. I kind of had things balanced out pretty well, at least I thought. It'd be kind of soft, and then just out of nowhere,
What? Like they were like yelling.
yeah, just oh man, it'd catch you off guard.
Guess let's go into positives.
The mood, the tone, the art direction, the music, all that stuff.
Yeah,
All that stuff was good.
tone's good. The power fantasy part, they definitely succeeded in that. I actually really like the story, and I played a bit into the Soul Reaver remaster too, and it is a wild leap.
Oh, so crazy.
It is, man. Whew, it is a crazy leap from where this game ends to that one starts. But yeah, I agree with everything Andy said. The music specifically, the music is fucking awesome.
I like
That
the
was
music a lot.
I love the music. Perfect.
Is there like a record of this game?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think this game's like famous enough.
No, this game does not get enough love.
That's why I wanted to pick this one and talk about it. Part of the reason nobody else played it but me here, and that weighed heavily on me. And the other thing is like nobody talks about this game almost at all anymore, except
Same
for
reason I picked my game.
because nobody talks about it, and none of us have played it. I'm the only one that hasn't. But it's just kind of like culturally a little left behind, you know.
Yeah.
Only real hardcore fans of this series really bring it up anymore. And to be honest, most of them still praise the hell out of the other games that came later. I'm gonna be real with you guys. This one's probably my favorite one, and I still think it's the best one, even with all of its problems. Like that's why I talked about, like we've talked about in the chat or something, like ever since video games got to a point where they were starting to remake certain games or something, I was like, I wish somebody would remake this game. Oh my god.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually thought about that. I was like, I don't want a modernization. I just want the same look, but better controls and maybe better cutscenes and
better quality of life shit.
Yeah, they're always working on and remastering and remaking games that are already fucking good. Like, take something like this. There's a lot of good there, but there's a lot that needs cleaned up. Redo this. This is what needs that treatment.
Yeah.
They'll never do it.
The
It's
game
not a
that
sure
always,
bet.
the game that always stands out to me for those types of remasters is The Last of Us. Why did The Last of Us need to be remastered?
It was fine.
It was fine.
They're always like,
all the
oh,
games.
they're like, oh, we remastered
Until Dawn.
every game that's already available digitally. Like,
Why
Exactly. It's such
why
a
did
waste.
Until Dawn need that? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
And, like, they don't even have. You know what? I don't even go as far as say they don't even have to like completely remake this game. If they just remastered it and fixed like the load times and did some other cute quality of life shit, some other things, it would
Huge
be
love.
more fun, and easier to play.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say too. As a kid, I didn't know this game existed. I actually played Soul Reaver when I was a kid, so I had Soul Reaver or not the game. I had, what was it, the demo or something that came out.
Probably it was on a demo disc for like Dreamcast and PlayStation.
Yeah, and it was kick ass. The game was super cool. And then but I didn't know it was a sequel to anything. I just thought it was its own standalone game, and it was like, hey, this is fun.
That's how most people discovered it.
The only extent of Soul Reaver I knew about is when I used to be in a clan for Ghost Recon, like the first Ghost Recon. People were using the Soul Reaver as part of their team's logo.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, that's fucking cool. But I never played the Soul Reaver series, so I'm like, I might check it out if that ever goes on a discount or something.
It's getting discounted here and there.
Like again, it's hard to like say when you're trying to look at this as a game standing on its own, but there is something to be said about one of the things they do in that they make a sequel and they take that. Well, first off, I guess I'll backtrack a little. Like when you guys beat the game, what choice did you make?
The non-canon good ending.
Oh,
I chose
Andy
a bad.
Andy
I chose
needed
the
some
bad
hope
ending.
after all that. Yeah, you chose the bad ending.
I told you there was an excessiveness of edge. I needed to dull it.
too edgy. Yeah. I chose the bad ending.
I chose it not really knowing how like balls to the wall feel good it was going to be, and it was like as it started happening, I was like, "There's no way that this is the right choice."
Yeah. Oh no, it definitely isn't.
I just kept on thinking about Anakin when fucking Obi-Wan chops off his legs and he's like, I hate you. That's why I chose the bad ending.
That was the angst you felt.
I mean, knowing that you spend all this time like just preying on the people that you do like through the game, it's like there's no way if I'm staying within the character's perspective that I have like not corrupted myself enough to just choose the bad ending and seize power for myself. So of course I did that. And then that the payoff is canonically like Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain is like what 1,000, 2,000 years after he does the bad ending and like seizes all the power in the world.
Bad guy.
And like has all of these others that join him that are his Soul Reavers, or well, they're not called Soul Reavers. They're basically his like left in command, and then
his lieutenants.
Yeah, and like that's what who you're playing as after he gets betrayed for one reason or another, and another spirit summons you to become his Soul Reaver of vengeance on Kain. Like that's where the story goes. Like immediately the protagonist actually becomes a bad guy. All along they had that intention, and then he is immediately catapulted to be the primary antagonist of the very next game that they play.
What's really funny about that is this kind of gets into the afterward shit where I'm going to explain the legal issues and what happened after the game release and all that. Silicon Knights started development on a Blood Omen 2, and then Crystal Dynamics at the same time started development on their sequel to the game, and they're apparently totally different from one another. So, like, who knows what the Silicon Knights one was? But not much info about that.
Well, like the whole like he becomes evil, he becomes the antagonist. That is cool, but that's kind of why I chose the good ending, because the whole game, he's like he starts out as just like some regular jerk off, some rich guy. And then he gets killed, and he's like, well, of course I want revenge. Of course I want to go back to the mortal plane. And as the game goes on, what happens to him is almost what happens to you. Like, you get all this power, and you're having fun, and you're like, affecting the innocent as well as the wicked. And he has such a fall from grace. He becomes such a mean, evil guy. I thought, that's got to be the turnaround. It's got to be, he's had his soul entirely corrupted by this whole experience. That's the only redemption for him. But no, it turns out there's no redemption at all. It's just he is corrupted by the experience. He hates mankind and he becomes a bad guy. Like that's not as satisfying for me.
Well, this gets into like, I guess we can start getting into the story now, because I have a whole thing about it, which is like, I think all this is done completely by design. Like all this stuff, like the gameplay and like the difficulty curve of you gaining more power. And eventually you just become super powerful, kind of like parallels Kain's journey.
It's what happens to Kain. He realizes, I like this. I like there being a horde of enemies, and it becomes trivial. I just zap them all with an electrical storm. It's hilarious. I like it.
But at first, no, I agree with you. At first, it has to be difficult because you're like, man, fuck these guys. Man, this is bullshit. And like you just are, like slowly learning how to eventually fight them, and now you're keeping up. You're like, fuck this guy. And then at the very end, you're like, fuck these guys. Just
fuck all these guys.
Yeah, like I think that's you're right. It's kind of the point.
There should be like a final challenge. I mean, I'm just designing a whole different game at this point. I don't think this would fit with Legacy of Kain that well, but there should be, you build all the way up to that, and then there's a choice at the end that's like, look, you can either keep all of these evil powers you got and go fight the final boss or do the final dungeon or whatever, or you can be good, give up your power, and it will save mankind or the world or whatever, your sweetheart, something. You'll give up the power to do something, and then you got to go fight the final boss as like basically the jerk off you were at the beginning of the game.
Oh, well, you just die.
Well, maybe. It's just if the game was designed well enough, then I feel like there would be like, well, this is going to be really hard, but I think I know how to do this.
There's a game which I don't know if you all played this game or not, but there's a game that has an incredibly similar storyline, except the one major difference is they give you what you're asking for in a way, and that is to give him a reason of motivation aside from just revenge. He's actually fighting for something, but the corruption happens throughout, and then at the very end, you're not really given a choice. You actually just follow through with what is supposed to be the good thing, but then because you don't get the thing that you want, ultimately, you end up like basically being forsaken by God, and then you end up becoming a very dark and powerful entity eventually.
Similar.
I don't know. It's Castlevania Lords of Shadow. So
okay.
Yeah. Like, that's exactly what happens. It's like the same thing. You end up getting kind of corrupted by, like, you get all these powers, and you think that these powers are the things that you're getting because you're blessed by God, but actually you're literally getting more and more power by doing Satan's bidding.
You're straying from God's light.
Right.
So, well, isn't like a villain's point of view always think they're doing the right thing?
A good villain.
A good villain, like a well-written, interesting villain. That's kind of thing. It's like Kain's just tempted by power, and I do get it. I do understand that. But for the finale of this really interesting game, I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. It's cool. Like, I love the pillars as a set piece. That's super cool. I really love the Circle of Nine. Like, all these, like, they used to be pretty cool guys, and now they're all like
crazy
villains. I mean, basically, what happens to Kain is what happened to them. Nothing is learned.
Kind of, yeah.
He just usurps the power from them.
Yeah, it's just, and that. Where's your like big story?
Well, I don't know. Kind of. He doesn't quite usurp power from him because it's like how they framework this whole quest for him, really.
Yeah.
Which is like, so before I'm gonna preface all this with Andy. I keep making fun of you because of the it's too dark. I'll let you know.
Too edgy, too much edge.
The first time I played this game, I picked the good ending too.
Yeah, good.
Because I was just like, well, I want to be a good guy. Because
yeah.
it's just back when you did that kind of thing more.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I think I played through the game the second time or some shit. Or I might have reloaded that save and I saw the bad ending right after. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, I looked it up. I had to watch the video, and like, I don't always do. I mean, there's like a good ending and a bad ending of the original Dark Souls, and I chose what I think people call the bad ending. Like, I leave the world in darkness, and I just always felt like thematically that makes more sense. I was like, no, this is the journey I've been on. This is how I'm gonna bookend this.
Yeah.
It's funny that that's the conclusion you reached in that game.
But I'm a weirdo. I don't know what to tell you.
The irony of that is that game is heavily inspired by this game.
Is that true?
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's Dark Souls director, but that's how Miyazaki. I actually learned Miyazaki. Yeah, I learned about this game existing because of Dark Souls, but I'd never played it.
That's awesome. That's fucking cool.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of similarities, including the duality of an ending.
Now I'm going to play Dark Souls.
That's what it took.
Finally.
No, I'm just kidding. I was going to play it anyway.
Zach, prepare to die.
But no. So the way this whole story framed up is like Kain gets murdered, and then he gets revived by the necromancer guy, and he's like, go get revenge. You're a vampire now. He's like, fuck. So he does. He comes out of his crypt, and he murders his killers. That part rules. And then he's like, God damn it, I'm a vampire now. I don't want to be a vampire. That's how he starts out. So he's trying to, he gets the Necromancer Mortanius tells him, like, seek out the pillars. Maybe you can figure out how to not be a vampire anymore if you go there. All right, so he goes there, and then he meets Ariel, who was the former Balance Guardian that got murdered in like the opening cutscene of the game.
Yeah.
She's a ghost, and she explains to you is like, oh, the pillars are corrupted because of nefarious forces. They've driven everybody crazy because I got murdered because it psionically fucked up everybody in the circle or something.
That seems like a really good D&D hook. I really like the pillars. They're neat.
I think this was also like allegedly based off of some D&D games. Some people.
I think I read that too. It's like the guys who wrote it had a game and they stole some ideas out of their game for this.
That seems totally believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a good way, but yeah.
Yeah. And like, so this is the new quest now. She's like, okay, go kill all these circle guys, these circle jerk guys, because they're all insane now. And you need to do that so you can heal the pillars so we can fix the land so, you know, everything's good and you'll be cured. Here's the thing.
Of existence.
She kind of lied to him. And didn't fully explain it.
He's not a vampire if you get the good ending.
Yeah, you just cease to exist.
Yeah.
So he goes through the entire game with this is his quest now, and he does it, you know, and like, to be fair, all these people are corrupted and insane now, and they're evil. So he's gone around murdering evil people anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean
he's still doing a righteous thing, more or less.
In some cases, he is doing a good thing. So it's like, you know, when the Nemesis, you know, the legions of the Nemesis, that king who has like that gigantic fucking army that's just taken over the world.
That's my favorite part of the game is when you get wrapped up with the king and then you go to war and they kind of lose, but it's okay.
That's one of my favorite parts of the game too, actually, is that whole sequence there.
Yeah.
But like those guys were going to like take over the world. And he's like, well, fuck this guy. He's like, I want to stop it anyway. He has to do it anyway. So it's like, on principle, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
So you kill all these insane people, like the mentalist guy who's like in a wheelchair throwing balls at you. And his area is cool too, by the way. He has like that giant skull built in like the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
The place is awesome.
Very James Bond-esque a little bit.
Kind of, yeah. And Malik, who's like a guy who was like a paladin that fucking failed at being a paladin, so he got his spirit put in an armor.
That's a cool character.
He's a very midnight, though. Sorry, that's a knee slapper.
That's another case where you fail in the game, like you can't beat him.
You can't beat him at first, yeah.
I can't beat this guy. Fuck it. He has to escape. But if you don't escape, you just fucking die.
Yeah, that took me more than one. I was like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I had to tell you that. I remember. It's like, you got to get out of there, basically.
Yeah, you have to leave and figure out how to kill him or how to beat him. Yeah.
Yeah, he does like that giant fuck you spell that takes up the whole screen and you get like immolated, basically. And then all the other guys, it's the same thing. They're evil fucks. They even have an evil area where they go that's like surrounded by lava, and there's like a weird castle and shit where they go in there and they plot and everything.
It's very weird, yeah.
You find that out too. They're all a bunch of weird, evil, insane perverts.
One of them's just like a weird puppet guy, and he lives in a regular house, and it's strange.
It's very that part's kind of creepy, yeah.
It is creepy, yeah.
And then like, yeah, he steals like the King Otmar's daughter.
Yeah. That's where I was like, is this just becoming like a regular ass fantasy game? Because you like meet the king and he's upset and he's like, I need you to rescue my daughter. And then you go on a quest to rescue the king's daughter. I was like, what game did this just become?
It's a side quest in D&D story that connects back to the main quest.
Yeah, it did connect in a big way.
I think he enjoyed killing him too because he's a weird pervert. I mean, come on. So
I enjoyed killing him. I was down with that.
It was creepy. He tried to put his daughter's soul in a doll to keep her forever. What the fuck?
Then there's like time travel stuff, and I get a little confused.
That becomes a big crux of the entire series story is time travel shit.
Yeah, boy.
Time travel.
What else am I missing? Oh, he meets Vorador in the middle of that shit, who's like the oldest living vampire. He lives in a sweet mansion in the middle of a swamp. Which was that's a weird choice.
I went there and I thought I'm gonna fight this guy, and then he like gives you something. I can't remember what it is, and then just leaves. I was like, wait,
he gives you one of the armors, right?
I think that's right.
He gives you a signet ring so you can summon him when you fight Malik because Kain was I don't know how to fight Malik, and then like Mortaeus is like, you need to
I'll do it.
talk to Vorador, and he's like, yeah, I beat his ass before. Here, summon me, and I'll beat his ass again.
That rings a bell now. Okay.
But he was like, oh, like being a vampire is awesome. It's amazing. You get all this blood. I have a mansion full of hot women and slaves. I have a pantry full of people.
Pantry full of slaves.
Pantry full of slaves. I like that area too. I liked his mansion.
Yeah, it's neat.
And the area outside of it with like the cool like will-o-wisp skulls and shit. It's a neat area. But yeah, he does all this stuff. He fights a whole army. He travels back in time to kill a fucking time traveler guy who's also insane. And you find out like this guy was orchestrating all this shit. The time traveler guy, Mobius, he was like, yes, you were my pawn all along. And he time traveled to fuck with like the current timeline so he could kill all the vampires. That ends up being what happened because Vorador gets murdered.
And doesn't he like turn the fucking king into a tyrant essentially with this whole time traveling bullshit?
Yeah, so like the I forgot his name. I think his name was William the Just before. Mm-hmm. He was just like a nice young king guy, and he got him all riled up into this vampire business and turned him into like an insane tyrant, basically.
Oops.
Yeah, so that's how you get the nemesis in the present time. I always like the cutscene where he murders Mobius. That shit was always funny to me. He's just like, fuck you and your time travel shit. He's like, decapitates him and walks away. But this kind of culminates into him learning over time, like, all these circle guys, like, just plotted all this stuff and made the downfall of society and all this other things, or they burned complete cities down, and they cavort with demons and shit. Which is like, wow. He ends up being disgusted by the entire world, what he's done. And it's like, on top of that, he learns he got manipulated and lied to by everybody, essentially. He like became like a tool for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the promise of him, like, oh, if you do all this, you'll be freed from your curse and everything. And that ended up being a lie too. Kind of. Like, he wanted to be alive again.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that's what the guy wanted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, you'll be alive again.
Yeah, sure. You'll totally get that.
In the afterlife or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, he does all this stuff and he kills Satan, basically. And that's the final boss is Satan.
Mm-hmm.
It always is.
And then he's given a choice. He's like, you're the last guy. You're the last. You are the balance pillar, Kain. So you kill yourself, or you can, like, not kill yourself and just doom the whole world forever. So I kind of don't blame him for being so pissed off after all that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it 100%.
And then it plays into... See, they made the story to where you can make sequels. And they wrote it smart. It could be like, well, the game's over if it just failed and it's whatever. That's a whole game. With a bad ending.
What's with all the titles like being all weird and shit for like Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain? Like they have like Legacy of Kain be like the subtitle, and then it's like Blood Omen. That's the title of the game, and then it's like Legacy of Kain. And I think the second one is Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen 2. Yeah,
so like Legacy, it was Blood
Rainbow
Omen
2,
Legacy.
First Blood 3. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. It's like that. So yeah, it's Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain was his first game. And then I guess after what happens and they get control of the IP, you're just like, well, this is just the main title of this whole series of games. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. And then Soul Reaver, so on. And then yeah, they just Blood Omen 2 is just Blood Omen 2. And what's funny about that is I didn't really think about this until you brought it up. It made me think about its title a different way, because that's the only one that doesn't have a Legacy of the game, Legacy of Kain in the title.
Yeah, what's like? Isn't the chronology this one and then the two Legacy, the two Soul Reavers, and then Blood Omen 2? Like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
It's because of all the time travel bullshit. And the best way I can explain it is, due to some shit that happens in Soul Reaver 2, there's a split timeline.
Oh no.
And Kain in Blood Omen 2, you're playing as him in that split timeline. And maybe that's why it's not called Legacy of Kain Blood Omen 2.
but
Oh.
that game's not as good.
It's kind of mixed. Like, I've had fun playing it, and then like there's some cool things about it, and then like there's times where I played it and I've gotten annoyed with it. So I need to revisit it, I think, really, to give you a fair judgment. I think the rest of the games are varying degrees of good. That's the only one where it's kind of questionable.
Yeah. I mean, that said, Soul Reaver. I haven't played Soul Reaver 2, but Soul Reaver 1 is quite a different game in terms of what you're actually playing. The story is really the only thing that's relatable because the gameplay is just so different.
Yeah. But that's the best way I could sum up this story that quickly was to do that whole synopsis. Is a guy gets murdered, and turns out he's a pawn in this entire scheme the entire time by like a bunch of people, and he witnesses how fucked up the world is as he's going through it and decides, fuck all these people. They don't deserve to be saved. and fuck these people for manipulating me the entire time. So I don't blame him. And it plays into the story later anyway in these other games too. Because, like, you get promised you're going to like survive, you do all these quests, and then you're done, and you're like, no, you should just die. No, I want to live. And that's the story of Blood Omen.
There you go. That's the story of what we think about Blood Omen, I guess. What else is there?
I'll punctuate that with games like this don't get made anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true.
Not even complaining about the stuff, the trappings of like the time it was made in and the hardware limitations. Just like stuff, games like this don't get made anymore.
I think Dark Souls was like the closest thing, probably.
Apparently,
heavily inspired by it, I suppose. But like I'm talking about how like some guys come up with a screwball idea for a game that seems to really go against the grain, and it's based on I read fucking Wheel of Time, or we played some D&D games, and we all came together.
You can't take a risk anymore. There's too much money at stake.
Too much money's involved.
Unless you're like, a piddly little indie studio and you only release your game on Steam or something, which is, I mean, there's a lot of great gems out there. There's a lot of really great games, but none of them are getting the attention of Assassin's Creed, Shadow, whatever it's called. I don't even know. They're not as big as Call of Duty, advanced bullshit, and all this other,
This game has to succeed or the ship sinks. Yeah.
Yeah. This team needs to save EA, Ubisoft, Activision, whatever.
And it's just kind of unfortunate because it used to be about like coming up with ideas like this and
being
just
clever.
Make a game, and there's enough people out there that they like that kind of thing, and it ends up being pretty successful, which this game was. It wasn't like a big success. It never got like greatest hit status on PlayStation or anything like that. I forgot what it had to be for that. I think you needed to sell 1 million copies at least.
I thought it was 1 million. That sounds right.
So it never sold that many, but back in those days, believe it or not, you could sell, for a game to be considered successful, if you just sold like maybe even just 100,000 copies, maybe a little less than that, they're like, that was pretty good.
I mean, it was good enough that it's got 3 or 4 sequels, so that's something.
It turned out, yeah. It's just this game kind of gets forgotten about and neglected a little bit.
Yeah.
And now I guess I'll get into the afterwards stuff. Unless you guys have got any other comments about the story or anything before we leave it behind.
I said what I wanted to say.
I think so. I thought so. Chaz, you got any other comments about the story?
No, nothing about the story. I think the only thing I was gonna move on was I was gonna wait for Dubs to get back, but yeah, nothing as far as the story. If you want to finish up with wrapping up the aftermath.
What's up? Sorry, the dog.
I think Chaz said something about you coming back for something.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you had other stuff to talk about for aftermath, it would make more sense to do anyway. So you can continue.
Dubs, do you have any other comments about the story or anything before we move on?
No, I actually love the story, and I can relate because because of my job, where I do everything they tell me to do.
Well, why don't you just go get a pair of Jinkos and put a wallet chain on, you little edge?
Dubs wants to turn into a vampire and murder everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is like he just actively sits there and it's like, man, if I could just like grab you by the throat and drink your blood. What size do you wear? Yeah, I'll go get you a pair of 8s.
If I
I
could
think
just
the-
make this store get struck by lightning and everybody explodes except me, I would do it.
No,
I feel that way sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine of me having the good and bad ending, or the good ending and then the obviously bad ending choice in like famous footwear. Like the good ending would be I just quit and just move on. The bad ending is I get rich and I buy out every famous footwear possible and just close it down. Everybody loses their jobs.
Damn. Total destruction.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and roll into the afterwards now. So post game release, some situations were developing before it came out, where I was alluding to it earlier. Like Crystal Dynamics agreed to be the publisher for this game, but I've come to learn a lot of different stories about like what was going on during development and after, and even some stuff about the court case that ended up resulting in from all this. Over Silicon Knights and Crystal Dynamics fighting over the IP after it was over.
You said they both started developing a sequel.
Yeah. So like so back in those days, see, I don't know if it's any different now or not. If there was a game developer making a game and looking for a publisher, apparently, at least in America or maybe the West, it was the general rule was we'll agree to be this publisher, but we retain the rights to the IP.
Sure.
That's what I read. So, okay.
And some
Now-
people disagreed.
Crystal Dynamics disagreed because they like, all right, we'll be the publisher, but what they didn't tell Silicon Knights was they were planning to transition into being development studio. So, and there's a kind of like a reoccurrence of this where they're not being forthright with information in business dealings. So they're doing like stealthy, shady business deals.
I mean, clearly it didn't work out for them in the long run. I don't remember, what did they develop? They like published like some of the Tomb Raider ports and Turok and
Or IDOS did that.
Okay, well, I don't even. What the fuck did they even do then, Gex?
So Core Design was the company that developed Tomb Raider, and IDOS picked them up. And then when they got Crystal Dynamics, they did all kinds of different games, not just Soul Reaver, but it's like what you're saying, like Gex or like some other stuff that's kind of forgotten about for the most part. There were a couple games in their catalog that were good, but it's like games that are like 7 out of 10 kind of games, kind of. Yeah. You know, those don't always get fondly remembered, especially if enough time goes by and it's trapped in like, you know, the time it came out, and then people don't look back on those games as fondly anymore.
Sure.
But so this is what happened. Yeah, they both found out, oh, we're developing sequels for this game. It's like, and Silicon Knights is like, why are you developing the sequel for the game? I thought we were.
Stop it.
And then Crystal Dynamics is like, no, we are. Stop. So they got in a fight. And the reason why they did this, what Crystal Dynamics did this, was because in their eyes, they invested in this game, and as rights as publisher, it's their IP now, so fuck off. That's basically how they looked at it.
Is this kind of like how like Remedy and Activision had with Max Payne, essentially, where Max Payne was like the property of Rockstar or whatever, and Remedy is like, well, fuck, I don't have fucking rights anymore.
I think so. Did they have legal battles over that? I don't know.
I don't know about legal battles, but like Remedy backed out of whatever they were doing at Rockstar, and Rockstar's like, well, I'm just gonna create Max Payne 3.
Yeah, it could be similar to that, like what I was talking about. Well, we publish your game, the IP's ours now. Do you want to make a sequel? If not, we'll find somebody else to make this sequel.
Yeah, let someone else do it.
Yeah.
I wonder if anything that they were working on got folded into Eternal Darkness.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know enough about the before times of developing that game, like before it got to be a GameCube game.
I mean, they also had the whole mess with Too Human, which they tried to like repeatedly make over and over, and then finally got someone on board to get them to make it
Then it
on
killed them.
Xbox 360, and then it was basically a
sucked.
supernova. It just imploded their whole thing. Yeah.
That gets into stuff that's got to do with Dennis Dyack, I think, personally. Like,
Hmm.
as like a game company director, president, whatever. And I'll get into that at the end too. But so it was lawsuit time after that. So they sued Crystal Dynamics. They went to court, and basically they settled. So they paid Silicon Knights, but they retained the rights to Blood Omen is what ended up happening, because it was like, yeah, the court basically looked at it as, you did kind of underhandedly steal this from them and just turn around and make your own game. Like, you did do that. But you should pay them for it. You're like, all right, fine. So they paid him $2 million or something.
That's big for that time.
Yeah. Also, Crystal Dynamics was dealing with Activision, and they got money from them too. Like, I was talking about that earlier. That's how they were able to keep funding that game. So Activision had something to do with that a little bit as well. I don't know. I think they were going to publish the sequel at first, and then they backed out of it when they saw, oh, this is going to turn into a legal battle. We're done. See ya. And then they bowed out. This is like the first of several situations where Silicon Knights seem to find themselves in like legal problems with like people they do business with. This was like a pattern was getting established right here. The only people they'd ever gotten to kind of legal issues with was Nintendo, it seems like. It seemed like they had the best relationship with Nintendo out of anybody they worked with.
Probably out of fear.
Probably out of fear.
Yeah. It's like, Mario will come for us.
They don't fuck around legally.
Mm-mm.
I think a lot of the controversy that followed Silicon Dynamics you could probably lay at the feet of Dennis Dyack, because it just seemed like maybe he's not that great of a businessman. He didn't understand the agreement and thought, oh, we're just going to make the sequel anyway. Yeah, that maybe he got kind of bamboozled a little bit.
Maybe.
But then you'd find out about what was going on with Two Human, and like how he was trying to fucking sue like Epic Games because their Unreal Engine was bullshit somehow. And when
if you look up Silicon Knights on Wikipedia, half of it is that bullshit with Epic Games. Like half of the article is like them trying to fight Epic Games, and it basically ruined them. Well, that and Two Human being a stinking turd, but
yeah, I mean they picked they went all in and doubled down on the wrong hill, and and then didn't help that Two Human sucked. What's interesting to me though is that in a different reality, Two Human could have been this game. Like, they tried to pitch this game back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Or pitch Two Human at the same time when they pitched this as the Pillars of Nosgoth. And it could have been, like, that's what we could have gotten instead. So instead we could have gotten a whole series about a futuristic Norse mythology timeline,
that also
power
sounds like
fantasy.
D&D shit.
Yeah. What's funny about that is that wasn't even the original pitch for Two Human. It turned into something totally different. And
really? That's crazy. I just don't even know what the finished product of the turd on Xbox 360 was.
So that's what it turned into. The original pitch for Two Human sounded like a fucking awesome game. It basically, so it had nothing to do with any of that shit, like Norse mythology stuff or anything like that, or like super future shit where you're fighting with swords. It was a cyberpunk game. You're playing.
There's an episode of What Happened from Matt McMuscles about it, and it's actually really interesting.
Yeah, it was like you were playing, like, I don't know, is it like a detective or something? And like the whole Two Human thing about it was like you can become more machine than man and all that stuff.
More human than human. It's the Blade Runner thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
that could have been a game that came out on PlayStation potentially, but like nobody wanted to bite on it for some reason. And I was like, that Two Human might have been a good game. What it turned into is not. But yeah, I think Des Dyack just always chose the wrong battles, and it seemed always like he didn't quite understand what he was getting into, and he tried to like make up some kind of bullshit court case to get money out of people to make up for his bad business decisions, because it just repeats over and over and over until like the company finally just dissolved because they had no money.
Yeah.
And that's the story of the developer that made this game.
There it is.
Well, I heard one of his philosophies were like, if I like it, one other person will like it. And I'm like, well, he sounds like a bad fucking business person.
Sometimes that's true. That's like saying everybody has at least one good idea, I guess. Maybe.
I mean,
I do like I like where he's coming from when he says that, because it does sound like, look, we're gonna make more of a niche game and it's gonna have its audience, but it's not gonna be for everyone, because that's what everything is now. Everything's got to be for everyone,
Mhm.
or else you can't make your money
exactly.
back.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally AAA gaming is served to the lowest common denominator, so that we can actually justify making said game.
Yeah. They need everyone to buy Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. They need that. But what he's saying is, look, we made like an edgy game for edgelords, and those edgy boys are going to like this game. And they did.
We made a game for people that are edgelords and want to blow up the place they work in.
Yeah, psychos.
That was his philosophy during a time where you can like actually do that.
Yeah,
And it was
maybe
just
doesn't happen anymore.
The gaming industry evolved for better or worse. I think maybe a little worse, to where you can't do that anymore.
Too big.
Too big. And I don't know. What is the Legacy of Kain, brother? What is it?
A game that begs to be remade or remastered.
I
Yeah,
agree.
if there's any game that would just thrive in that if it's done the correct way. Which allegedly they're going to be doing a visual remaster, but I don't know if that's still on the table or not. When I was looking up, it's like Aspyr or something is doing the.
Yeah, they're the ones who did the
cool Tomb Raiders.
Soul Reaver remaster.
The Soul Reaver ones.
And
yeah,
I think they're waiting to see how successful that is.
Yeah,
Or has
it's
been.
up at least wherever I was looking when I was
been in
looking
the
at the
last year.
developers. It's listed as a TBA, but it looks like it's something like you said. The guys basically waiting to see how successful the Soul Reaver ones are. But so I guess the question is like, do we recommend this game?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I think it's a good game.
Here's the thing. Yes, I recommend it. Personally, I recommend the GOG version with the GL wrapper. If that's too difficult, then I guess whatever. But the moment that you hear there's going to be a remaster of this game, wait.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
too.
100%.
Obviously, I recommend this game.
If and when they make, I'll be optimistic. When they make the remake, are we playing it?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
going to. I've
If
waited.
it's a couple years down the road, like if it came out in September, nah. But a couple years down the road, yeah, I'd pick it up. I like this game a lot.
I've been
I
waiting.
agree.
I've been waiting on a remake for this game for like 20 plus years. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be able to buy a $40 copy off limited run this time next year.
just like Final Fantasy VII. You beat that game, and then you saw the next game, and you're like, "When will they remake Final Fantasy VII?" I had the exact same reaction to this game after I beat it.
I guess we don't know how to like close it out, but I know
We
Chaz
gotta
is
tell
up.
them what we're doing next.
Yeah, Chaz is next in the Accelerated Gamer. What is your game?
Yeah. So there's just this game.
Chess. It's chess.
It's chess. Yeah, we're gonna talk about chess.
Chessmaster 1000.
There's just this little game that came out when I was a child, called Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of known a little bit.
I don't like this game. It's not edgy enough.
This game, okay, well, we'll get into that. For what this game is, especially Nintendo, and what its sequel is, it's pretty edgy.
There's some
Got some edge
edge
to it.
sequel for sure.
There's some edge in this game, but just there's some real edge in the second game. But anyway, we're gonna talk about that, and I have a unique take because I think it's easy enough. I think everyone agreeing too. You're already hearing, eye roll. They're gonna just talk about Zelda and Ocarina of Time was one of the most important games ever made. And blah blah blah. I think my plan is to kind of hold a trial for the game, and I'll explain what I mean.
What
In
is
due
Link
time.
been accused of?
Yeah.
We're putting this game on trial. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna put this game on trial. Is this game really the most important game of its generation, or best game of its generation
Am I the
of that
prosecutor?
console, or blah blah?
Because
I don't know yet. I don't know
I'm-
how. I don't know what the direction is gonna be yet. So kind of making it up as I go, to be honest. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I've got a blueprint in mind. So
And for the viewers, by the way, each of us chose a game, and each of us are quarterbacking the actual episode. So Zach chose his way as far as being more, descriptive and information on like the past and obviously the conclusion and all that stuff of the development. And it seems like Chaz is going into courtroom case, and I'm kind of digging it. So
yeah.
I wonder who's going to be the defense and who's going to be the prosecutor.
I think we'll figure that out. I mean, I think it's going to make the most sense for Andy and myself to be paired on one side, whether that side's for or against whatever we're arguing, and then you guys on the other side. And the reason I say that is because Andy and I have played this game, and I would like to think that it was a significant part of our video game development. At least for me, it was. This is one of the most important games to my childhood.
That's something to save for episode 2. But yeah, of all the games I've beat the most times in my life, this one's in the top 5.
100%. So I think we don't need to say more, but spoilers. I think it'll be a fun little thing to discuss because everyone and their mothers made a video about this game. Yes. I think taking a different approach to it would be kind of neat. So that's what I want to do.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll close it out. This episode will probably come out in the summertime because I'm strategically posting this show at a certain time when we're not doing Big Trouble in Little Podcast.
It's already up on YouTube, probably.
No, I have it privated.
Oh, it says live, so.
Yeah, it's privated, and so I could actually post it at a certain scheduled time, which is cool. So if you want to catch more of Accelerated Gamer or any of our other podcasts that we have, make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTubes. And we're also on all podcast services. So make sure you check that out as well. I always just say, well, until next time, I guess. We'll see you in the next courtroom with Chaz's pick. So see you later.
Ve Victus.
Ve Victus!
Ve Victor.